A very good evening everyone. Welcome to Bajirao IAS Academy, the Hindu news analysis. So today is 6th June 2025 and today we have some very important topics for the analysis. So without any further delay, let's get into the discussion and let's try and understand all these important topics in a very detailed manner so that this discussion will be helpful for your prelims and mains examination. So the first topic with which we're going to start the session is a very important topic, and this topic has been given in the Hindu newspaper, and in fact this mainly deals with India's relations with Europe, particularly European Union and UK, and this article is very important for your general studies paper 2. In general studies paper 2, particularly about India and international relations topic, this might be asked. So therefore, we'll try to understand the nuances of this particular topic. So what is the context? Why it has been given in the Hindu newspaper? The context is that recently we all knew, first we need to understand the background. So I hope you all knew what is Brexit. So Brexit is, Britain's exit from the European Union. Earlier, Britain was part of the European Union, but through Brexit, Britain came out of the European Union. And now European Union is a supranational organization where multiple nations have come together and they become a group called European Union. So they might have a common market, they might have a uniform mobility framework, so everything. But Britain, because of the public pressure, the government has decided to withdraw Britain from the European Union, and that is what is called as Brexit. So I hope you have understood what exactly is Brexit. Now after Brexit, there are always attempts that the Britain and the European Union should come together so that they can start cooperating again with each other. So however, recently what happened was a newly elected UK Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, so he signed a cooperation agreement with the European Union. So this possibly signaling that the UK will likely cooperate again with the European Union on number of fronts. However, this cooperation of UK and European Union, how it is going to benefit India? So this is the key element of the UK and European Union cooperation agreement that has been recently signed. And this article's purpose is also the same. Now how this deal between UK and European Union could potentially benefit India on number of areas, for example, whether it is with respect to food security, fisheries, defense and border management after Brexit. Now I hope you have understood what is Brexit, and also remember that Britain is part of Europe. So Britain is part of a Europe continent, but earlier Britain was also part of the European Union, but because of the public pressure, the government has decided to withdraw UK from the European Union. So after the exit, UK and European Union have signed this cooperation agreement, right? So this cooperation agreement will deal with a number of these areas that you can see here. So however, this diplomatic reset between the European Union and also UK, so while it has a regional appearance, so no doubt that across the Europe, so this deal is welcomed. So we can say that this has a regional appearance. But apart from being a regional appearance, so this deal also carries some strategic implications for India's export systems, geopolitical alignments of India, and even the diaspora mobility from India into UK and European Union. However, the crux of this particular article has been given here. This particular cooperation agreement between UK and European Union, how it is going to benefit India, and that is the key element that we're going to discuss in this topic. So I hope you have understood the background very briefly. Now we'll try to understand what will be the implications of UK and European Union reset for India's trade, India's geostrategic relations, and even the mobility of the workforce. Now in fact, all these areas are the key pillars of India's engagement with the European Union. So therefore, this UK-EU cooperation agreement, so how this is going to benefit India in number of fronts, including trade, strategy, and the mobility of the workforce. So we try to understand this. One thing I could say that when UK was part of the European Union, so Indian exports, they did not face a significant number of regulatory burdens. But when UK came out of European Union, Indian exports started facing number of regulatory burdens, both in European Union and also UK as well, because UK no longer part of the European Union. And that has substantially increased the regulatory burdens on India's exports to European Union. And remember, with most of the countries in the European Union, India has trade surplus. So therefore, India's exports to European Union are very important element for India. So however, when both UK and European Union, if they have a unified regulatory regime through this cooperation agreement, so that is again going to boost India's exports. Remember, one advantage I have already told you, that advantage is India is having a trade surplus with majority of the countries in the European Union, and in this context we need to sustain the trade surplus, and along with that we need to boost our exports to the European Union as well. So here with the cooperation agreement, the another benefit is that there will be a unified regulatory regime for India's exports into the European Union markets as well as the UK markets as well. So this is going to be the first benefit that India is going to have. So secondly, because of UK and European Union a cooperation agreement, there will be a harmonized compliance framework. And this harmonized compliance framework could streamline trade, particularly a number of areas where India already has this strategic advantage, or India has the competitive advantage. So competitive advantage is the best word I can use here because it is talking about the trade. Now, what are those categories where India would have a competitive advantage with respect to other countries when it comes to its exports into the European Union markets? For example, pharmaceuticals, textiles, agro products, and even seafood. Now, in all these products that we have just discussed, India has a competitive advantage. So therefore, through this cooperation agreement, there will be a harmonized compliance framework, and this framework will benefit India's exports to the European Union and even UK as well. Now, a key fact that you should remember here is that India's pharma sector is generally known for its generic drugs production and export of its generic drugs to European Union markets, African markets. So therefore, if you look at India's pharma sector, so it has been supplying around 25% of generic drugs to European Union, right? 25% is a huge number of pharmaceutical generic drugs being exported to the European Union markets, including UK. So therefore, now in this context, this cooperation agreement will benefit from faster approvals and even the lower cost of export as well. Now, this agreement will also benefit us in terms of export of generic drugs. So first, we have understood there will be a unified regulatory regime that will help boost exports. Secondly, there will be a harmonized compliance framework, and again it will help further enhance our competitive advantage in certain areas. And third, it will also strengthen the export of generic drugs, generic medicines into European Union markets. Now, if you can carefully look at another category where India is having the strategic advantage with European Union and UK, so the total seafood export to those regions would be around 60,523 crore. I hope it is very clear for you. Now, India exported a seafood worth of 60,523 crore. right? So if food standards align with between UK and European, so because understand one thing, that imagine European Union has a different food standard and UK would have a different food standard, so there will be very difficult situation for India to comply with these food standard in these different countries. However, if they can actually align their food standards, then again it will going to benefit India's seafood export to the European Union and as well as UK, because understand, a huge amount of exports are being sent to both UK and European Union, seafood export. So therefore it will ensure that Indian marine exporters may face a reduced duplication of inspections. So this will be another big advantage of this cooperation agreement. Remember, all these points are very, very important in terms of your General Studies paper 2 answer. The next advantage would be, so if you look at the financial year 24, so India's total exports to European Union stands at 86 billion US dollars. So however, this number is substantially lower than China's exports to European Union, but India still tries to further enhance for the boost its exports to European Union. But in the financial year 24, India's total exports to European Union markets would be 86 billion US dollars, and to UK it would be around 12 billion US dollars in the financial year 24. Now, don't you think that we have been enjoying such a huge trade with European Union and UK? So therefore, these two countries are a very important partners for us. Now, if they come together through this cooperation agreement, don't you think that it will benefit Indian economy, Indian trade, Indian mobility, and the geopolitical strategy also? Now, another advantage would be, so in this context, right, so there will be a cooperation agreement between European Union and UK, right? So that will benefit India both in the short term and long term as well. So therefore, what India should do, right? So India on its part must do a certain thing so that India can be able to capture the markets in European Union and UK, better utilizing the existing cooperation strategy, a cooperation framework. So India must recalibrate its existing trade strategy. So therefore, India must invest in compliance infrastructure. So India should develop such infrastructure which would help Indian exports better comply with the rules, standards of both UK and European Union markets. Not just a compliance infrastructure should be developed, but also sector specific capacity should also be enhanced, thereby building to remain a competitive in the reintegrated UK and European Union market. So I hope you have understood all these points. Remember, these points are very, very important points that have been given in the Hindu newspaper, that have been discussed in this article. Now next is strategic and geopolitical realignments. Now UK and European Union, the strategic and geopolitical realignment with this cooperation and how it is going to change India's strategic and the geopolitical landscape. So we should also understand this, because it's not just about the trade, it's not just about the commerce, it's also about the trade, it's also about defense, security, all these different aspects. Now, if you can remember, recently UK and India have signed a comprehensive strategic partnership. So I cannot say recently, but in the year 2022, after Brexit, India and UK have signed a comprehensive strategic partnership in the year 2022. And this comprehensive strategic partnership would specifically focus on certain areas. What are those areas that it focuses on? Cybersecurity, climate change, maritime security. So all are the areas where India and UK would cooperate, would coordinate as part of the comprehensive strategic partnership agreement. right? So I can say that this could be the pillar of UK and European Union foreign policy as well. I mean, this could actually converge with UK and European Union foreign policy as well. Now, there is no need for India to deal with both UK and European Union separately. So if UK and European Union have such a cooperation agreement, so that will make India's foreign policy a bit more easier than before. So that is the first advantage. Next is that it is also expected that this will create a scope for a deeper alignment in multilateral forums. Understand, there are number of multilateral forums where India and several members of European Union are part of, where India and UK are part of. So this a close cooperation between UK and European Union is going to provide a scope for a deeper alignment in multilateral forums. So that could be another biggest advantage. Now, if you specifically ask me, for example, the Indo-Pacific cooperation. Indo-Pacific cooperation. So India stands for free, open, inclusive and rules-based Indo-Pacific. But on the other hand, European Union, UK would also have a same, they also have the same interests in the Indo-Pacific region, right? So therefore, there will be a deeper alignment in the multilateral forums in number of different fronts. And similarly, France, a very important defense partner of India, from which we have purchased our Rafale fighter jets. Now, if you look at India and France bilateral trade, now France is already part of the European Union. So India and France bilateral trade, so it would be around 15.1 billion in the financial year 24 and 25. And similarly, the defense pacts with Germany and UK focuses on joint development. It focuses on joint development. So what does it mean, joint development? For example, if I can tell you one example of joint development, BrahMos, right? So BrahMos is an example of joint development of defense weapons by both Russia and India. And in a similar way, we also have such pacts for joint development with both Germany and UK as well. But France is a very important defense partner for India within part of the European Union. So therefore, a harmonized European Union plus UK defense doctrine. So if they have the harmonized defense doctrine, so this defense doctrine may facilitate the trilateral Indo-Pacific engagement, right? So a trilateral Indo-Pacific engagement, particularly involving European Union, UK and India as well. So this is a trilateral defense engagement in the Indo-Pacific region. So therefore, it will serve our interests as well. First is India's naval modernization is one of the objectives, right? So this trilateral cooperation will facilitate the naval modernization of India and even the counterbalancing Chinese assertiveness in the Indo-Pacific region. So remember that Chinese assertiveness in the Indo-Pacific region is a key concern for us. So anyway, we wanted to act against the Chinese excessive and growing influence in the Indo-Pacific region in general and Indian Ocean in particular. So therefore, such like-minded nations coming together, joining hands, would help India achieve its naval modernization plans and counterbalancing Chinese assertiveness, because India is also feeling threatened by Chinese growing presence in the Indian Ocean region. I hope it is clear for you. So apart from that, India is traditionally known as the leader of the global south. So there is a line called Brent line, and this Brent line divides the entire world into global north and global south. Now global south are the countries which have the common problems or similar challenges. For example, poverty, unemployment, gender inequality, crime rates, drug trafficking, human trafficking, right? So social inequality. So those are the areas where there is a higher level of poverty and lower levels of per capita income, and that area is called as the global south, and India is also part of the global south. However, India regularly advocates for the global south. So however, India feels that a unified West would be best for the advocacy of the global south. So European Union and UK coming together through this cooperation agreement would further unify the West, would again unify the West, and that will benefit the global south advocacy of India. Now, one such example of India's leadership to the global south was India's G20 presidency in the year 2023 elevated its global south leadership. Why? Because in 2023 G20 summit in India, so African Union became a member of the G20 grouping at the initiative of India. So this reinforces that India is a leader of the global south. India advocates the interests of the global south as well. Now, so this a stable UK and European Union access, or this cooperation agreement, can be considered as a springboard to advocate climate finance, WTO reforms, global digital infrastructure. Because understand that climate finance is very, very important goal of several developing countries, including India. Now, developed countries in the West are reluctant to contribute to the climate finance. But here it is being said that a stable and sustained UK and European Union cooperation can be considered as a springboard to advocate climate finance for the developing countries, underdeveloped countries, and the island states. And similarly, a WTO reforms as well. So as of now, a WTO is in a stagnant phase, and there is a need for the reforms within the WTO as well, and even the global digital infrastructure as well. So thereby aligning with India's broader strategic interests on the multilateral platforms such as United Nations and even the G20 grouping. So ultimately it is being said that this is going to benefit India on a larger scale. And similarly, mobility, diaspora in European Union, UK, and the knowledge economy. So how this cooperation agreement between European Union and UK will benefit India's mobility to European Union markets and diaspora and even the knowledge economy. So we'll try to understand that aspect in a much more detailed manner. Now it is being said that in the year 2024, UK has issued over 110,000 student visas to Indians. Right? A huge number of student visas have been issued by the UK to Indians in the year 2024. So therefore, this has been confirming that India is a key source of talent pool. So countries like UK and other countries in the European Union are ready to welcome and encourage the talent from India into the European Union markets. So this re-engagement and realignment between European Union and UK will again going to benefit the knowledge economy. It will again going to benefit the diaspora and even the mobility of the workforce as well. Right? So I hope it is clear for you. Next, a renewed UK and European Union, a border collaboration. Right? So there will be a border collaboration as well, and that border collaboration will facilitate the mobility of workforce freely throughout the Europe. And this could unlock a partial mobility, easing cross-border employment and even the academic engagement, particularly for Indian professionals and the researchers. Right? So therefore, this border collaboration between UK and European Union is going to be another big advantage for India's workforce, India's professionals who are in both UK and European Union. And apart from that, the migration agreements with Germany, France, Portugal, so they can be embedded in a broader UK and European Union framework as well. However, so it is very important that India should also act on its front. So therefore, India needs to facilitate a smoother talent movement. So there should be a smooth talent movement from India to European Union and also UK. So therefore, we need to facilitate that. And at the same time, we need to support the Skill India mission. So this is a skilling program that has been launched by the government of India to skill its workforce and also better use the existing demographic dividend that we already have. And the Videsh Bhavan initiatives for a structured labor export. And apart from that, India should also upgrade its export infrastructure, its compliance infrastructure that we have already talked about, and legal frameworks for data and migration. Because all these investments, all these different frameworks that if India works on, so they could deepen the institutional links with European academia to fully utilize this strategic movement. And similarly, a proactive foreign policy will determine India's gains from the West reintegration. Right? So this is how the UK and European Union cooperation agreement will not just benefit the European Union and UK, but it will also benefit India on a large scale on different fronts: trade, commerce, exports, mobility, knowledge economy, diaspora, skilling, in all these different areas. So India will benefit enormously from this cooperation agreement, and therefore we need to see this on a positive light. So I hope you have understood this and it is also clear for you. And next, a very important topic, and again this topic has been given in the Hindu newspaper: India and Central Asia links. Now remember that recently in UPSC prelims examination there is a question which is asked about the international north-south transport corridor that you can see here. So this international north-south transport corridor links India with Central Asia and further to Europe through Iran. Right? So here it is given about the international north-south transport corridor and how it is going to benefit India as well as Central Asia, because it could enhance India's access to the Central Asian markets and the resources as well. It will integrate Indian markets with the Central Asian markets. Now you might get the doubt that what are the countries which are part of the Central Asia. So Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan. Now all these countries are part of the Central Asia. Now India has been over a period of time trying to strengthen the connectivity to the Central Asian region, but because of the Pakistani problem that we have been facing, because Pakistan denies access to to Central Asia. So therefore we are looking for the alternatives, and one such alternative is the Chabahar port, which is located in Iran. Right? So also understand the Central Asian region is known for its rich mineral resources, and it could ensure the mineral security. It also ensures the energy security, and it is also a source of market for Indian goods as well. So therefore it is having the multiple benefits, and we should not neglect India's relations with the Central Asia. Right? So recently what happened was External Affairs Minister of India, so he emphasized on the need to invest more efforts and resources into improving connectivity with Central Asia, right? So he started emphasizing on India's readiness to improve connectivity with the Central Asia region. And in fact, so these remarks from our External Affairs Minister came on the backdrop of the 4th India Central Asia Dialogue of 2025, right? So recently this 4th India Central Asia Dialogue took place, and in this dialogue External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar held that we need to invest more efforts and resources into improving connectivity with the Central Asian region. However, so we have a certain areas which could be considered as the key focus areas. Now, what are those key focus areas? So one is the International North-South Transport Corridor, so which passes from India, Iran, Central Asia and to Europe. And even the use of national currencies for the trade settlement, so whatever problems that the countries have been facing when it comes to having US dollars could be easily overcome if these countries can be able to use the national currencies for the trade settlement, and these could be the important priorities of India and its Central Asian engagement. Now, first area where External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar emphasized on is connectivity to Central Asia, and it is very important for India strategically in terms of trade, in terms of commerce, in terms of energy security, in terms of critical mineral supply. From all these different perspectives, connectivity of India with Central Asia is very important. It is very crucial. Now, it is being said that Central Asia exactly lies at the intersection of Russia, China, Iran and South Asia. Now, as I have already told you, you just open the map and you can see there are some countries: Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan and Turkmenistan. So these are the countries which forms part of the Central Asian region, and this region is considered as a vital region for the overall regional balance and even the energy security. Now, why it is important for energy security? Because these are the areas where there are rich energy resources. So you might have heard about the Tapi natural gas pipeline, where Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan and India are part of. So even though it is not yet operationalized, but this Tapi pipeline starts from Turkmenistan. So Turkmenistan, there are a huge energy resources, and those energy resources can be transported to India, right? So this Tapi pipeline, so it indicates that there are huge energy resources, whether it is natural gas, crude oil or critical mineral resources, all these different aspects. And apart from that, the Central Asian countries are rich in hydrocarbons. Hydrocarbons, generally natural gas, right? So natural gas and fossil fuels. Natural gas and fossil fuels, other fossil fuels, they are being called as hydrocarbons. For example, like crude oil. And even countries like Kazakhstan have a huge uranium resources. And uranium is also very important for India's goal of producing huge quantities of energy from the nuclear power plants. And even it is also home to critical mineral resources as well. So therefore, overall, because of all these advantages and resources that the Middle East or Central Asia have, so it could ensure India's energy diversification, right? And it could also ensure mineral security for India. Because if I can tell you one example, recently what happened was India excessively dependent on China for rare earth elements. And rare earths are very important for India in some industries. And some critical minerals also, India excessively dependent on China. So if China suddenly stops the supply of these rare earth elements, critical minerals to India, so what will happen to India? So keeping this in mind, it is important for India to diversify the areas or diversify the regions from which it has been procuring energy, it has been securing the mineral resources as well. So therefore the Central Asia could be a one sustainable alternative for India in both short term and in the long term as well. And apart from that, the connectivity corridor. So we have already established a connectivity corridor up to Iran because we have developed port called a Chabahar port in Iran, and this Chabahar port is very crucial for India's access to Afghanistan and deep into the Central Asia as well. So there is a terminal called Shahid Beheshti terminal, right? So this Shahid Beheshti terminal that India has developed, and this Chabahar port is going to ensure India's access to the Central Asian region, its markets, its mineral resources and its energy resources as well, right? So therefore Chabahar port is generally considered as the gateway to Afghanistan and further into Central Asia. So we couldn't actually bypass Pakistan. Also remember that this question is not just asked now by the UPSC, previously also, right? So I think around 2019 or 2020 UPSC has asked about this. Now why India has been developing the Chabahar port, right? So to bypass Pakistan, India has been developing the Chabahar port so that India can have access to Afghanistan and Central Asia. And similarly this year UPSC has asked about the international north-south transport corridor. So India is developing Shahid Beheshti terminal, and this Shahid Beheshti terminal actually forms a key link to the international north-south transport corridor. So as I have already mentioned that this international north-south transport corridor would link India, particularly Mumbai, Gujarat coasts with Iran, and from Iran to the Central Asian and to the larger Europe up to Russia. So therefore this international north-south transport corridor is a 7,200 km a multimodal network, and that links Mumbai, Chabahar in Iran, Caspian Sea, Russia and up to Europe. So thereby it could substantially reduces the freight time and cost compared to the traditional sewage route. So therefore don't you think that this is going to be a huge advantage for India when it comes to achieving the goal or the objective of having access or connectivity to the Central Asian region? Now in this context we will briefly look into the trade and financial cooperation between India and Central Asian region. Now trade volume is far below the potential, right? So the trade volume between India and Central Asia is just $2 billion in the financial year 24, right? So there's a huge potential, but because of the geographical constraints, particularly lack of connectivity, lack of accessibility, makes it so this area not reflecting its actual potential. So actual potential is huge actually, but the potential is not reflected because of the geographical constraints that we have when it comes to accessing the Central Asian region. And even India has been pushing for a mutual settlement in national currencies so that we can actually bypass the need for having US dollars. So there will be no need for us to have a US dollars, to pay in US dollars, and even use of UPI. And again this question has been asked in UPSC examination: which of the following countries have been already using the unified payment interface, right? So therefore a number of questions which are reflected from the newspapers, reflected from the current affairs. So therefore you need to pay adequate and enough attention to all these different facts, right? So India has been focusing on the national currencies trades should be settled through the national currencies, and also pushing for introduction of unified payment interface in most of the Central Asian countries, and even expansion of special rupee Vostro accounts. Right, so we'll understand what is a Vostro account and what is the Nostro account. Right, so if we specifically say what exactly is a Vostro account, because these Vostro account and Nostro account are very often in use. Right, so Vostro account actually means that your money on deposit at our bank. Right, so if I can say specifically, the Central Asian countries, so Central Asian countries currency would be deposited in our bank. For example, it has been deposited in the State Bank of India. Right, so if we import anything from the Central Asian countries, then whatever money that we already have in our SBI would be paid to the Central Asian countries. So this is Vostro account. Now what is the Nostro account? So Nostro account is completely opposite to the Vostro account. Right, now here what happens, that imagine that the Central Asian bank. So in Central Asian bank, so it actually has the rupee with it. Right, our money is deposited into your bank. So there's a bank, and in this bank rupee has been deposited. And if we export anything to Central Asian countries, and these Central Asian countries would use this pool of money of rupees, and they would settle this particular trade in rupees. So that is the Vostro account and Nostro account, and this actually makes there is no relevance for US dollars in trade settlements, and that will further increase or further boost the trade ties between India and Central Asian economies. I hope you have understood between Vostro account and Nostro account. Right, so regional developments such as India's Operation Sindoor that Indian security forces have recently conducted against Pakistan, which has been continuously supporting and sponsoring terrorist organizations, and outreach to the Taliban in Afghanistan, because in recent times you can see that India has been trying to have diplomatic relations with the Taliban regime. So India started engaging with the Taliban regime as well. So therefore it actually appears that India has been playing a larger part in shaping the regional security architecture that could have important implications for the Central Asian security and stability as well. So however, there are certain common challenges which still prevail. For example, terrorism and extremism, narcotics trafficking, Chinese strategic expansion through the Belt and Road Initiative. So all these are some challenges that India could likely face. Right, so we have already discussed that what are the challenges that India has been facing. So there's a huge presence of China in the Central Asian countries. Right, so huge presence of China could actually limit India's engagement with the Central Asian countries. Right, so one challenge is that we don't have a direct land access to Central Asia, because see, so if we wanted to directly go through the land, so Pakistan is the way, but Pakistan denies India's access to Afghanistan and Central Asia. So therefore what India has been doing, India through Gujarat and Mumbai has been accessing Iran's Chabahar port. So Chabahar port is located somewhere here. So from Chabahar port we would go to Afghanistan, and from Afghanistan we would access all major Central Asian countries. And in fact the international north-south transport corridor is also part of this. Right, so from Chabahar port we would access Russia and even Europe as well. So this is how the international north-south transport corridor spreads throughout the Europe and the Asian continent. Right, so the slow progress on multimodal corridors like international north-south transport corridor, geopolitical instability in Afghanistan after 2021 is also a challenge, because this geopolitical instability would create some security challenges for India. because Afghanistan is now ruled by Taliban. That is a militant group, right? So it is not a democratically elected group which is not enjoying the legitimacy and credibility of the people, which is not elected through the popular vote. So therefore there will be always a geopolitical instability in Afghanistan, and competition with China, particularly huge presence of China in most of the countries in the Central Asian region, and inadequate logistics, banking and regulatory harmonization. So all these are the major challenges, but India has been finding out the solutions to further enhance its engagement with the Central Asian region, because it is known for the mineral resources. It is also known for the energy resources. It will ensure energy security for India, right? So it will also ensure India's access to Eurasian region and Russia as well, right? So this is how India is going to engage with the Central Asian republics. I hope you have understood this topic. And next very important topic is census that the union government has decided to conduct, and this census could be a foundation for the a delimitation of the constituencies that center has been planning to do. So we'll also understand about this, and this census data will also play a very important role when it comes to allocation of seats for the women as part of the delimitation exercise, right? So the context is that India's decadal population census. So what does it mean? So it actually means that India conducts census once in a 10 years. Right? So however, we have to conduct census in the year 2021, but due to the COVID-19 pandemic, right? So due to COVID-19 pandemic, we were not able to conduct the 2021 census, right? So it was originally scheduled in the year 2021, but we have postponed the census due to the pandemic. But now it is expected that by March 2027, the census exercise would be conducted and completed as well, right? So this is what the center has said. However, so the important aspects of the census 2027 would be, so this will be the first digital census that will be conducted, and whatever data that we have through this census will serve the foundation for the next delimitation of Lok Sabha and the state legislative constituencies. Remember, Article 82 of the Constitution provided for the delimitation exercise. So there will be a delimitation commission, and that will be established by the president after every census to redraw the boundaries of the parliamentary constituencies once in a 10 years. Right? So this census data will become the basis for the next delimitation of Lok Sabha as well as the state legislative assemblies. Right? And in fact, the delimitation exercise is constitutionally mandated to occur after 2026. Right? So I hope it is clear for you. Now we'll understand why a census data of 2027 is considered as a very important demographic pivot with political, social and governance related implications, because it is being said that there are numerous implications with the census of 2027. The 2027 census will be conducted digitally for the first time, right? So for the first time in India's history, the census will be conducted in a digital mode, so that the census data will be easily analyzed, evaluated, and the census data can also be used for policy making, and those policies would be data driven and evidence based as well. So I hope it is clear for you, right? So if we collect the data digitally, so this will help us in faster data collection, real-time validation of data, and even efficient analysis of the data that we have. And in fact, so this a digital shift in collecting the data, collecting the inputs and information is intended to make the demographic data more dynamic and even accessible to everybody. So however, the absence of updated population data since 2011, So it has actually hampered the implementation of the welfare schemes, right? So from 2021 we don't have 2011, right? Because last census was conducted in the year 2011, and after that 2021 we need to conduct the census data, but due to the COVID-19 pandemic we were not able to conduct the census, right? So since we don't have the data right from 2011, that has substantially hampered the implementation of a large number of welfare schemes, and those welfare schemes which specifically deals with the vulnerable groups or vulnerable sections in our country. Now if we talk about the upcoming census data that will be completed by the year 2027 March, so the data that we collect is important, or it is very critical for programs like National Food Security Act, Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana, and even Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, because all these programs are mostly relying on accurate demographic mapping. So they wanted to do the accurate demographic mapping. So therefore, so data is good for any country's policy making, because it is being said that if we make any policies based on data, so it would result in data driven and evidence based policy making, and it could also serve a huge amount of crucial resources as well, right? So it will result in optimization of the policies or the resources that we have. However, the rising concerns about the data security and even transparency, because the digitalization increases the efficiency and it also brings data privacy and cybersecurity risks as well, right? So this is a significant concern when it comes to conducting the census through the digital mode. However, because of the threats to data privacy and cybersecurity risks, what we need to do, so we have to ensure that there is an end-to-end encryption of the digital census, and there should be a transparent protocols that have to be established, and there is an independent oversight to build the public trust in the overall process of the data collection as part of this census exercise. However, it is also said that as part of the census, the caste data will also be collected. So we can also say that there will be a detailed caste census, and the data about different castes will also be released. So therefore, the caste enumeration and how this is going to benefit the developmental planning in India. Now it is being said that the first caste census or enumeration was done in the year 1931 and in 2027. So in 2027 census, so for the first time nearly after a century, because the caste census, the last caste census and the first caste census was done in the year 1931, and nearly after 1 century, the census 2027 will also have a data about the different caste groups. So thereby it offers insights into the socio-economic status of historically marginalized communities. So there are certain communities, for example, within OBCs, SCs, STs, there are certain communities which are considered as the marginalized communities, and that's why the subcategorization of these large caste groups would be done, so that the benefits of reservation would be taken to those sections which are considered as really historically marginalized, and the reservation benefits have not penetrated to those caste groups. And in fact, it would result in data-driven and evidence-based social justice, right? So however, it is not free from the risks, right? So it is also having a certain risks as well, even though it would result in the data-driven social justice. Now, what are the risks that it can actually have? For example, it may result in political fragmentation, a reinforcement of social divisions if misused for the electoral mobilization, right? And in fact, it would ensure the methodological rigor and confidentiality in the caste enumeration, and that will be essential. right? So apart from that, so whatever data that will be collected through 2027 caste census, it must be anonymized and shielded from the misuse, so to avoid the exacerbating caste based tensions as well, right? So thereby the caste enumeration, and it also has both positive and the negative impact, right? So in fact, so this will also play a very important role when it comes to the delimitation exercise as well, because Article 82 of the Indian Constitution and 170 of the Constitution, they talked about the delimitation exercise, right? So the caste so the census data will be linked to the delimitation mandate or under Article 82 and Article 170 of the Constitution. And in fact, with reference to date now fixed at March 1st 2027, and the path is clear for a comprehensive redrawing of the electoral boundaries as well. However, so the delimitation exercise would be conducted, but there are certain southern states which are strongly opposing the delimitation exercise. So you must know about this. Why southern states have been opposing the delimitation exercise? Because they feared that after delimitation, because of the population progress that they have made, particularly controlling the population, would be penalized, because the delimitation exercise would be primarily carried out based on the population. But the northern states which have a higher population, they would get more seats, but the southern states which have done enormous work when it comes to controlling the population, so they would get lesser amount of seats. So therefore it would penalize the southern states, and they are expressing a serious concern about this. And this actually raises equity concerns in federal representation. However, the center has been of the stand that this delimitation exercise would adequately answer the concerns of the southern states as well, but it has to be seen how center would address the problems or the concerns of the southern states through the delimitation exercise. Now, given the possibility of political sensitivity of the delimitation exercise between north and south divide, with accusations of a demographic gerrymandering, now the center must engage with all relevant and necessary stakeholders. So consensus among all the stakeholders is very important, because that could essentially prevent the regional alienation, and it would also uphold the cooperative federalism as well, right? So this is how the census data would be conducted for the first time on digital mode, and this census data will also be used for the delimitation exercise, which is mandated constitutionally by Article 82 and Article 170 of the Constitution. And the caste census will also be collected as part of the census data, and that is going to have an important implication on the social justice as well. So I hope you have understood this, and that's all in this lecture, and thank you so much. And if you have any doubts regarding these topics, so you can just comment those doubts in the comment box, and we would like to answer all your doubts. So if you like our class, please subscribe our YouTube channel and also hit the like button. Thank you so much.